Hi, I'm Matt, and on today's Matt's World DIY, I'm going to show you how I made this shade structure for my back patio. You may recall I just had my back patio slab poured, so it's brand new, but the sun is terribly hot. It gets so hot back there in the afternoons, so I needed some sort of relief. So this is my method of creating some shade to protect the backside of the house from the scorching rays of the sun. So I need a few things like a shovel, a level, a pot, and some concrete, some bags of concrete. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these posts, I've got 4 cedar posts and some 2x4 pressure treated lumber by 10 feet that I'm using for this project. The first thing I'm doing is I'm putting a paver on the ground and I'm leveling it out so that whenever I put the pot on top of this, I'll know it will be level and my post will be able to sit straight up, and I won't have any kind of leaning issues with the posts. So I had to kind of jerry-rig this where I got a patio chair so I could lean the 4x4 onto, because I'm doing this project all by myself. So I put that there, then I poured one bag. It's a 50-pound bag of Quickcrete concrete. This is the fast setting version. So I put 50 pounds in the pot, and then I have a little, I made a discovery here because I needed a brand new hose because my hose sprung leaks and stuff. So I'm going to talk about that in a second, but here I am, I'm just checking the level of the post. So like I said, my hose sprang a leak and it was getting really, really bad. So I needed a new hose, and I can never get a hose that is satisfying. But I found this one. I did some research, and this is a highly rated 0G 50-foot hose. I love this thing. I'm going to put a link for it in the description below. I got it off of Amazon and it's super awesome. Look at this. Bam. Okay. So anyway, I'm using this hose to put some water into the vessel with the concrete. So make sure whenever you're doing this, if you're doing this, you have to make sure that the water gets all the way down to the bottom. So I have this metal pole that I'm using to stir and really get the water reaching down into the bottom. But you could use this method, or you could mix it all into like a wheelbarrow or something like that, and then pour the concrete into the pot if you chose to do it that way. This was my first one. My technique got better as I was doing 4 of them. But it served the purpose well, and then just make sure you check your levels, check your levels. And I found that it set fairly fast, so I had to work quickly, but I didn't have any risk of those poles leaning and falling out of level. It was at this point that I decided I wanted to take my sunshade fabric out of the packaging and lay it out in the yard so that it would have a chance to relax and lay as flat as possible. So I got this off of Amazon. It came with bungees, it came with zip ties, and it also came with rope to attach it to whatever it is that you're doing. So whatever it is that you're using. So I laid it out in the sun to relax, and then I got to work on my lumber. So I'm drilling my pilot holes for the screws. I don't want my wood to crack whenever I'm attaching it to the 4x4s. So I just drill my pilot holes. Then I laid 2 of those poles down and placed them on top of the 4x4s. And then it was really easy for me to go ahead and just place the screws. I used 3-inch decking screws to put those onto the, to attach it to the cedar posts. I also had a neighbor come in and help me. He was really, really helpful, so I appreciated the offer for help. And then once I had that one done, I was able to lay it up straight and place it straight up. And then I was double checking left to right to make sure that the posts were square, both on the top and the bottom. So this is a 10-foot section. The whole structure is a 10 by 10. Then these little pads are where the posts are going to sit. So I had to make sure they were exactly level with the patio, as well as exactly the same distance from the patio pad. Something to keep in mind is that whenever you purchase lumber, it is never perfectly straight. So if there was a warp on this, I wanted it to warp up in the middle so that gravity would end up pulling it down if it ended up relaxing. So just double check the curvature if there is any of your lumber. Then with the 2x4 in place, I went ahead and I screwed in the pieces onto the 4x4s. I did the one on the left and the one on the right. And then there's my neighbor helping me out, and I laid them up straight. So we have 4 posts sitting up straight, and now it's time to get them attached to the sides. And you could probably do this by yourself, but it would be very challenging. Is it impossible? No. But having an extra set of hands is definitely encouraged. So here I am double checking the square. I'm making sure that everything is still level, as all 4 of the 2x4s on the top are attached, and I'm still able to move them around a little bit, move the bases around a little bit. So I'm just double checking to make sure that they are square and plumb, that sort of thing. And here's a little trick with the level. I just kind of showing off there a little bit. My neighbor was amused, not amused, I don't know. Anyway, here we are at this point in time. Looks really good. Now, to check the squareness of your whole structure, I measured from the inside of the posts diagonally, left and then right, and if you come out with the right number, the same number, then you know it's perfectly square. Mine was slightly off, but I didn't find a way that I could fix it. So anyway, here we are. We're attaching the sun fabric, and I decided to use a combination of bungee cords and the zip ties simply because they didn't actually give me enough bungee cords for all of the grommets that were on the fabric. So we decided to try to figure out a way to evenly space out the bungee cords as well as the zip ties. So it worked out fairly well. I was wishing that perhaps the fabric would be a bit more tight, but that's something I think I'm going to work on in the future. I may end up just zip tying all of them because the bungees offer a little bit too much slack for the measurements that I'm using. So the bungee cords are really easy to attach though. I really like the ease of use in that situation. So if you decide to go that way, great. So I did all of the bungees, I did all of the grommets except the corners, and I left the corners for last. And for the corners, I ended up drilling a screw into the top of the 4x4 and pulling the fabric onto it. Right there, it looks pretty tight, but as time goes by, the fabric relaxes a little bit more. And there you see Ted 2 inspecting some of the work as well. Now I'm getting ready for bracing, and here are some of the tools of the trade that I need to use for this part of the project. And also I'm going to use my circular saw for this. I wish I had a table saw, but I don't. So a circular saw is just fine, as well as a ladder. I love this ladder too, by the way. I've had it for years. It's expandable and it's great. So I took my speed square and I'm doing a 45-degree angle, which I'm going to cut and is going to serve as bracing for each one of the corners. I'm also measuring out 20 inches. 20 inches is going to be the long length of each one of these braces. And I just went down the 2x4 and measured them out and drew it out, and then used my circular saw to cut them, and here we go. It's a perfectly cut little side brace. And so I did a little dry fit right here just to make sure that everything looked good, and I used a pencil to mark where I'm going to drill my pilot holes. So I'm doing 2 on the 2x4, and then I'm going to do 1 screw at an angle from below to attach the bottom part of the bracing to the 4x4. And that's kind of the tricky one. You definitely want to make sure you do these little pilot holes so that you don't crack your wood. Then after I had that all done, I placed my screws in and then attached them. I just wanted to make sure that the lumber was placed properly. It's flat to the top. It's flush on the very top of the structure, and then as flat and close to that 4x4 as possible. So doing this again by yourself, is it possible? Absolutely. Would it be good to have a set of helping hands? Possibly. It just depends on your skill level. And again, this really does not take a whole lot of skill, but just bring your patience and take your time, and you'll be able to do this. And let me tell you, after I got these braces on, the structure was so much more solid. Don't skip this step, especially if you want a really nice, sound, solid structure. A lot of S's there. But I was impressed with how well it supported the structure after I got these braces in. And here I'm just double checking that that bottom screw is nice and tight. And there you go. And this is the final product. I'm really happy with how this turned out. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And also check out some of my other videos that I have on my DIY playlist. I will see you next time.